Hey everybody, how you doing today? Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm Edie coming to you live from the Chuck Wagon studio right here at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. And I am so excited to introduce you to my longtime friend. Uh, he's my relative. He's married to my cousin. And well, a guy who wears a lot of hats. I put that in the little description whenever I was promoting you on the Facebook thing, Randy. This is Randy Cocheran, and Randy's from Surreal, Oklahoma, my hometown, and he's done through all the years that he's been around Surreal. He's just done so many different things, and I'm just so glad that you could come today and share some of your poetry and just some things tell us about some of the things that you've got going on there. So that's very exciting for me, Randy.
It's an honor to be here. And like you said, I could consider you family. I'm close to your family.
Yeah.
Actually worked with your dad a lot at the refinery.
Oh, that's right.
That while ago.
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's true.
It's really neat to be here with y'all.
Yeah, this is going to be a good day, guys. So, I think, because the real reason you're watching is to hear Randy do some poetry. I'm going to let you listen to that first, and then he and I will talk a little bit. So here to get us kicked off, Randy Cocheran.
This is a poem I wrote, and most of my poetry is actually true life events. And this one actually happened. It's pretty much a totally true story. And the title of it is a little long, but it'll make sense once you hear the poem. And the title of this poem is Longhorn Crossbred Bull Calf for Sale. So he was one of the cutest little calves you'd ever want to see. His mama was a Longhorn, wasn't sure, but Angus is what his dad appeared to be. His old mama wasn't much to look at. She's skinny and kind of had a small frame, but had a real nice set of horns on her and easy to be around. She's so gentle, she's pretty much almost tame. I spent a lot of time with the cows. I like all my livestock to be calm. I'd even carry a little creep feed in my pocket and they'd come up and eat it right out of my palm. Well, I was there when he took his first steps and I watched as his mama licked him clean. He shiny black fur, big, soft, beautiful eyes. Nothing about that little bull appeared to be mean. Well, the bigger he got and the more he grew, he didn't look like his mama, but he favored his dad instead. He was real stocky and beefy looking, not even a hint of horns on top of his head. Well, I knew that a crossbred steer would bring me more money than a crossbred bull, so I just called up one of my ranching friends and I borrowed his banding tool. Well, I didn't have a horse at the time nor a chute to put him in, but I come up with what I thought was a really good plan. I'd have the loop of my rope over my arm and I'd slip it over his head when he's eating that feed right out of my hand. Well, I got my feed and lariat ready and handed the tool to Justin. He's my 12-year-old son. I said, when I flank the calf, you hand it to me, we'll put him on there and just like that, we'll be done. Well, I got my feet and whistled for the little bull and he come running right out of my hand, started eating the feed. He didn't even notice when I slipped the rope over his head. I kind of chuckled, said, it won't be long, I'll have this little dude broke the leg. But when that rope tightened around his neck, that's when my plan went right out the door. My cute little baldy calf turned into Satan, the devil, the monster, El Diablo, or even more. He jumped in my lap when I tried to flank him, so I just wrestled him down to the crown. All his mooing and bawling got the attention of the other cows and their horns was getting close as they began circling round and round. Well, Justin's one of the bravest guys I know, and there's very few things that causeth him to fear, but one of those things is cows. But he's chasing them or they're chasing him. It's kind of hard to tell from here. Well, all the commotion got the attention of old Rambo. He's our old Walker coonhound. So he jumps in the parade, barking and howling, chasing the cows as they chase Justin round and round. Well, I'm in the middle trying to hold this monster down. My jeans are ripped and buttons are torn off my shirt. I'm bleeding from my chin, my arm, and my side. I'm totally covered head to toe in dirt. I've totally forgot about banning him. My focus now is just trying to survive. I don't care if he's a bull, a steer, or a Jersey milk cow. I just want out of this situation alive. Somehow the rope got wrapped around my waist and to my leg. It's tied in a knot. And it seemed like less and less I got this calf, and more I'm the one that's got. him with 4 sharp hooves and me only using 2 hands meant half of those hooves was free. So I dropped the ones I was holding and see if I could grab the other ones and stop them from kicking me. Well, in between running and hollering, Justin asked me a question, and he was sincerely wanting to know. He said, "Do you need me to help you hold him, Dad?" I said, "No, Justin, I need you to help me let him go." Thank you. And that really happened.
That is a great poem, man. What a way to describe that story. Oh my goodness. Listen, if you've ever wrestled some calves before,
Yeah.
you can vividly imagine that scene that Randy just described for us.
His back legs were like a jackhammer. It hit me on the side.
Oh my goodness, what a great story. That was excellent.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I absolutely understand the title now.
Right.
You were right. Can't sell that thing fast enough.
No, can't sell it fast enough.
So tell us a little bit, Randy, how, just give us a little information about yourself, how long you've been doing cowboy poetry, kind of what got you into that, kind of give us a little bit of that information.
Well, those are things it's hard to say. I mean, you hate to say you're a cowboy, you hate to say you're a poet or cowboy poet. I consider myself a student, and there's 2 things I consider a student of. I'm a student of the Bible because it's unknowable. There's so much there.
Right.
And I consider myself a student of a horse because it's kind of the same thing. Like a Bible's so simple a kid can get it, but so complex that you can study it forever and never get it. Well, horses are almost the same way. A kid can go to the fair and ride on a pony ride, or you can study horses for years and still have something to learn.
Right.
So that's kind of what I consider myself a student. And in doing that, like you said, I pastor a church, but I also kind of got into the whole cowboy lifestyle as an opportunity to perhaps reach kids.
Right.
We do Haiti mission trip about every other year, and we take youth there. And one summer as a fundraiser, we had an outdoor day with kids where they would show up and they paid a little bit, and we took them to the creek to play. We let them ride horses, just get outside. They had some goats to pet. And I was shocked at kids that had never been in the creek to play.
Yeah.
And more than that, how many kids have never been on a horse? And I mean, we're in Southwest Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Everybody should have done these things in my mind.
Yeah.
So that was the first start of my journey toward the whole cowboy camp type thing and building Cowboy Town. Because after that day was over, I heard one kid say, "I'm going to have to rethink this Jesus thing because I really had a good time." And I thought, how neat is that when you get kids just outside, around animals, around horses, around creeks, how their whole mindset changes.
Right. They let their guard down,
right.
And they're open to whatever new thing they're seeing or experiencing. Right. And so, wow.
And that's what we were created for.
Exactly.
So that was kind of my motivation behind this place that we've built called Cowboy Town. It started out as something like that, to get kids outside and to do things like that.
Oh, it's nice. Very nice. So I'm going to let him tell you guys about Cowboy Town here in a little bit. But so you told me you write your own poetry. So where do you, obviously experiences are a great place to get that. But did you, before you kind of got into the cowboy part, did you write poems before or write songs? Or, Randy's always been a little bit of a performer. So I'm kind of curious about that.
I've wrote a few songs. They're not what you would say good songs.
That you never sold
one. Nobody ever bought them or ever heard them. So apparently they wasn't. I do play a little bit and sing a little bit.
Yeah.
I used to, not near as much anymore. And so that's kind of where I think it come from. And more than the poetry aspect was the storytelling, than just advancing into making it rhyme.
Right.
It's kind of my motive.
Adding that meter to it,
right.
Which I think that adds interest.
Right.
For me, I can sit and listen to someone tell a story. I love that. But but when you put it into the form of a poem, it just really, one thing that it does for me is that it makes me really aware of the ability to use our language to put rhyming words in places and still keep the integrity of the story, and how creative you need to be able to do all that. I just think that's really interesting that you can do those things.
Back in the Longhorn calf for sale, I actually told the story in sermons and stuff way before I ever made it rhyme. And I thought, well, I need to just see if I can make this rhyme and tell the whole story and keep it
right
together, and it worked out. But
yeah. So do you have like a notebook and you jot things down, or how do you go about whenever you're writing the poems?
mine is I'll have an idea, and my first poem I'll do that last. I actually had the ending before I had anything else. And I would sit with my iPad and just kind of put what I wanted to say in each stanza or whatever
Right.
paragraph, and then go back and try to figure out how to word it to make it rhyme.
Okay, nice. Very nice. So, when was the first time you went to a cowboy poetry event and you thought, that looks like something that would be a fun thing to do?
Actually, it wasn't that long ago, and the first poem I wrote, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, just the way it turned out. And so I got invited to, or I didn't get invited, I just came here for your deal in November with the open mic. And I thought, I need to get in front of a microphone, say this, and see if it's any good or not. That's the best way to do it, is put it in front of people that really do it, and let them say, man, you need to quit doing this and go back to working on telephones or something like I used to do. But and I got really good feedback, and was actually invited to a couple poetry competitions, and I've placed at some of those, and actually won one in Duncan here last year.
Very nice. Very good, Randy. Wow.
It just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
It's not something I planned. But.
Yeah. Well, still though, I mean, isn't it fun to realize that you have something new to do? I mean, we're not spring chickens anymore.
Well, no, I'm not.
But I mean, I just love it that you can find something. There's always something new that you can try your hand at, and who knows, maybe you're really good at it. You would have never known if you hadn't given it a shot.
Given it a shot. I
Yeah.
thought, well, I'm coming all the way to Duncan. There's not a whole lot of people that know me. So if I bomb, I won't tell nobody, and I'll go back to Surreal.
Right.
Nobody will know.
Nobody can be the wiser.
Right.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you. I think we're going to benefit from that today. So I tell you what, I'll let you go ahead and share another one with us.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one, excuse me, I've actually done more research on this one than any of the rest of them. And in setting up Cowboy Town and coming to visit the Chisholm Trail Center and learning about just the cowboy lifestyle and how everything happened, one of the things that I discovered was the lead steer. And if all of our heritage in Southwest Oklahoma, the cowboy, has to do with the cattle drive. Even when you drive through pastures and you see a longhorn steer out in that pasture, that's a tradition that was passed on from the cattle drive. And I got to doing a little research, and I figured out that Charles Goodnight had this steer named Blue that I think actually made 8 trips to Dodge City, and they would take him back. After the 8th one, he retired him to live on his place until he passed away. And then he had the horns put in his office. And I thought that was a really neat story. And so I wrote this in regards to the name Blue. And I had a horse that I really liked named Red. So the title of it is Following Blue and Riding Red. Help wanted for a cattle drive was all the flyer that I'd read before dreams of being a cowboy just exploded within my head. For more information, please inquire inside. $35 a month and found, and they provided the horses to ride. Seems Mr. Goodnight's rounded up another herd and looking for hands to make a drive, and a 15-year-old boy could make over $70 if he could make it to Dodge alive. Well, they cut me out 4 horses I'd be using for the trip, a little red dun mare, a big old bay, and a couple red ones, one with a blaze and the other one had a star and a snip. When it came to naming my new ponies, I didn't get too fancy nor carried away. The little mare I called Red, and the sorrels was Blaze and Star, and well, that big gelding, I just called him Bay. First couple of days, them cows was plumb loco till they somewhat got broke to the trail. Colonel's old steer blew up at the front and me while I was bringing up the tail. We was a couple weeks in when the storm hit, and they stampeded sometime after midnight. Little Red running flat out across the prairie and me just hanging on and praying for daylight. When we crossed the Canadian, it was actually flowing fairly deep and wide. And Little Red, she took care of me again. Seemed like I'm just along for the ride. Well, I spent a long night in the strip. The cattle were calm and the starry night was clear, but my mind was full of wild Indians, so I held my night latch in fear. The fact that the Colonel and Quanah Parker had struck a deal didn't do much to put my mind at ease. It didn't stop me from thinking it was Comanches every time a clump of sagegrass moved in the breeze. I'd ride and obey when we crossed the Cimarron, and it wouldn't be long and Dodge'd be coming into sight. We bet them down outside of town, meant I'd be sleeping on the ground at least for another night. Well, we drove them down Front Street and turned them over to a buyer from back east. I was kind of sad my adventure was over, but money and Dodge City was going to be exciting, to say the least. But I was ready when the Colonel said, boys, let's get blue and head back the other way. Good thing, because the Long Branch and the other establishments had already gotten most of my pay. It's been over 50 years since that summer, but it's probably one of the most exciting things I'll ever do. Taking a herd from Paladura to Dodge City, riding red and following blue.
Very good. I love that one. I mean, I've done a lot of historical research for, just to be able to know things and teach things around here. And wow, you covered a lot of things, like the fact that the kid on his first drive is the wrangler and he's at the very back, the multiple horses, the lead steer, all the stampedes. I mean, just so much, the pay.
Yeah, and I did. I mean, I kind of listened to hear and see, carried a lot of that stuff from what I learned here about the age of the drivers and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it was actually one of the later Charles Goodnight's moved back from Colorado to Paladura Canyon area. So it was one of the later drives from, when it started moving because of the tick fever, moving west. So,
yeah. Wow. Well, that is a really, y'all, that was chock full of history right there. That was a good one. Actually,
me and my wife actually drove the route out. We went to Dodge City and I figured out how far from when I crossed the Cimarron to when I come into Dodge, just so I'd know how long, that they could.
What fun, man.
So
he really went
my research one.
Yes, you did. Well, Charles Goodnight is credited with the chuck wagon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he knew that the Cowboys needed help hauling stuff. They couldn't carry everything with them. So he took one of the old retired wagons from the Civil War, added all the storage and the flip out part on the front and all that stuff, and created something that the cook could use, and it became a staple of all the cattle drives. So Charles Goodnight, man, he really left his mark on the cattle drives. That is great that you kind of paid in homage to him.
And him and Quanah Parker, who was leader of the Comanches, they actually did strike a deal, and he would give him so many beeves, they would call it, and they would let them have access across there. So I thought that was interesting.
That was a very interesting part. In fact, you guys could just break that one down and go research each little part of it, and you would find a lot of really great history about the trail. Yeah. That one would not have been the Chisholm Trail, though.
No, it was later on. I mean, it was just like between Panhandle and Texas. It was a pretty short trip.
Yeah.
It's why the couple months.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because the first ones, like on the Chisholm Trail, they were about 100 days. Yeah. But I mean, the cattle drives went on for over 20 years. Yeah. About that. And so things did change over that time. But wow, that was a great poem.
Thank you.
So you kind of mentioned earlier that poem kind of birthed the idea of Cowboy Town.
It's
for
actually the
you? Or
opposite
the
way.
opposite?
Yeah,
Okay.
Cowboy Town, just wanting to research the heritage and history of our area.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I found out about the lead steer and one named Blue, and it
Mhm.
kind of burst the point.
Birth. Okay. Well, tell us about Cowboy Town. You guys are gonna. This is a place you can go visit. It's like a real place that you can visit. So tell us about your Cowboy Town, Randy.
Well, it started out, we just, me and my kids would get together and we own this property and we do trail rides with the horses. And we built this little stage that looked like a I call it the cattle company. Every building's named after somebody. And people started coming out there. And then we done that youth camp, and I thought, man, this could be a way to reach kids. So
Mhm.
we've added several buildings to it. And in 2017, my best friend and boss at the time, him and I would get together and we'd talk about things we were going to do. And I shared with him, it's my heart to build this town to where kids can get out of the city or come out and get in the woods and go through trails or maybe ride horses and maybe see how life used to be a little
Mhm.
more simpler.
Mhm.
And we both had these, and he was going to go help his son with the ranch and raise cattle. And we always had these things we were going to do when we retired.
Right.
When 2017, he got killed in a car wreck.
Oh,
And from then, I'm like, I ain't going to wait no more.
right.
So I stayed around about another year and I quit my job and just put money into this deal. And we've had birthdays out there. We've had class trips, and we started doing something 2 years. This will be our third one. My daughter loves Hallmark Christmas. So we thought, let's,
Who doesn't?
who
Right?
doesn't?
Am I right, ladies? I
So
mean,
she said, well, let's do a Cowboy Town old fashioned Christmas where everybody that works there, the vendors, us, are all dressed Old West or, oh, Hallmark Christmas. We're dressed
uh-huh.
the part.
Uh-huh.
So we started putting that on, and we've got that coming up. December 5th and 6th is the first two nights, and then the 19th and 20th are going to be the next two nights.
Okay. So that's coming up. That's just a couple of weeks.
Couple weeks, and
Woo!
we're really trying hard to get it to get it done. I worked there today till like 11 o'clock before I get left to come here. I've got two
Uh-huh.
crews working out there right now, and
Oh
my
boy.
wife has been putting up lights nonstop, and I think we've got like 10,000 lights put up so
Oh
far
my
on all the
goodness.
buildings and stuff. So,
Wow. So let's help me get a visual here. So about how many buildings do you have?
well, and the main building we started with, it's
Uh-huh.
called the Douglas Allen Cattle Company, who's my friend, named after him. And then
Uh-huh.
on each side, we've got a general store, we got a sheriff's office, we got a bank front, we've got a barber shop, which
Mhm.
is also acts as the bathroom.
Oh,
And
yes.
actually, it's kind of crazy, but my barber chair is the most expensive thing in the whole place.
Those are kind of
Yeah,
collectible.
they're kind of
Those-
collectibles and hard to find.
Yeah.
And then next to it, we have the saloon. And now we're building a hotel on next to the saloon to add a little more seating space in it.
Okay.
And then across the town, we have the blacksmith shop.
Oh yeah, you got to have
So
one of
gotta
those.
have one of those. And
Uh-huh.
we've got a lot of plans for the future, and just haven't
Right.
got there yet.
Right. Well, still, I mean, that in itself. So, tell us about some of the activities we could experience if we went out there for some of the Christmas time.
Well, for the Christmas time, we'll open at 6:30. We'll have a Christmas tree lighting that start then. We usually have.
That's straight from Hallmark right
straight
there.
from
Every
Hallmark.
Hallmark movie has a Christmas tree.
It
Now, will you
does.
do that every night?
We do that every night.
Oh,
And
ooh,
we
fun.
will, but the Hallmark doesn't have a gunfight involved in
Oh,
it.
that's true.
So we will have the gunfight, and usually the Grinch will be involved in trying to steal the Christmas tree lighting or something.
Uh-huh.
Because the Grinch is there, and we'll have the gunfight. So that'll be part of it. We've got Santa will be there, and he is the real deal.
You heard it. You heard it right here. Santa Claus, the real guy, is going to be there.
Yes, yes. I think he really is.
Uh-huh.
We have a
Randy
pet.
wouldn't lie. He's a preacher.
I'm a preacher. I can't. I said I think he really is. So that covers me. We have a petting zoo. We'll have a little sheep, goats, donkeys, all that stuff. We have a little barrel train that rides through an elf works side in the through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a longer ride through a live nativity scene where we'll go through Mary with the angel, uh, the decree to go to Jerusalem, the inn, shepherds in the field, the manger scene, the wise men. And that's all
Nice.
told through a speaker as you go through it from an
Uh-huh.
Old West cowboy point of view.
Uh-huh.
And it's really a moving experience. A
Oh,
lot of people get off of it and they're either crying or
uh-huh.
are shocked at what they just saw. So
Right.
that's all included with the admission price.
Okay. And what
Plus
is that?
$10 at the gate. I think it's $8 online.
Okay. All
And you
right.
go to Cowboy Town Christmas through Eventbrite.
Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, Cowboy Town Christmas, and you can order your tickets online.
Okay. Is that Bright,
I
Bright?
think it's Brite.
Okay,
I think.
Eventbrite,
Eventbrite.
Brite. We'll get all this stuff on the comments section. Cowboy Town, do they have their own Facebook page?
Yes.
Okay, so Cowboy Town has a Facebook page, and I bet there's a link.
Yeah, you can go
On
like
that.
it or follow it, and there is a
Mhm.
link on that. There's
Yeah.
advertisement on all.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures too, the lighting and
Yeah.
some of those things. In fact, that's one of the ones I put
Yeah,
on our
you
little
did put-
promo.
that was our saloon lights that she put on.
Okay, well, I just
So-
thought that's a really pretty picture. I'm gonna put that
Yeah.
on there. And so then you said there are some vendors or
Yeah,
things-
vendors are open. We'll have food trucks. Also, my wife, she likes to cook, and she calls it Cowboy Town Chow, where we have a chuck wagon set up, and we can serve you around the campfire at the chuck wagon.
Uh-huh.
But
And is
there's-
that all additional cost?
Yeah, the food is additional cost,
Okay.
or the drinks are additional cost.
Okay.
There's things for sale in the general store, like hoodies and sweaters and things
Oh,
that you
fun.
would, stuff like that,
Mhm.
Christmas things.
Yeah.
But then there's vendors that will be set up. We had food trucks, kettle corn, just different people come. And Snyder's Family Exotics from Sterling, they brought a tent and they had kangaroos and an emu, a lot of their animals.
Not your typical nativity animals,
Yeah.
but
No.
I mean something super fun that you wouldn't always get to see.
That's right. But they
So-
do have a camel and they may bring it this year.
Oh, ooh,
And they got a monkey and everything's better with a monkey.
everything.
Yeah,
It
so-
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You add a monkey, it's just better.
It just goes right. That's funny. Well, that sounds like a really great, fun kind of event.
I would enjoy it. I mean,
Yeah.
once we get in, we're all nervous, and once I get into character and I put my Old West clothes on and I become Sheriff Randy, everything's okay.
Everything's okay.
Right,
Yeah.
so-
Oh, I bet that is so much fun. And so about how many of you guys does it take to pull this off? I mean, Randy and his wife Tammy, they have 3 kids, and those 3 kids have several other
13.
kids. 13. They have 13 grandkids.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that it's a family affair.
It's a family deal. They're pretty much all involved. We also have a mechanical bull, and one of my sons runs it. We have a fast draw competition with the stuff that the real Fast Draw Association uses. The light comes
Oh.
on, you shoot a
Oh,
wax bullet,
okay.
and we have a competition. We give away a T-shirt for the fastest of the time.
Oh, fun. So that's not the shootout in the street.
No,
That's
no,
not
no.
it. And
We-
there's
we try to
no
be
real
safe.
bullets are
No, it's
involved
wax
here.
bullets, and we're pretty safe on that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. So.
Yeah. Wow. What a fun that just sounds. And I would think $10 for that. That would be, or 8. I mean, if you
If
took
you
the
get
time to
online,
plan
Yeah.
and do that online. Well, I hope you guys have a really great turnout this year. It sounds like most everything is outdoors.
Pretty much everything is outdoors. The shops are the only thing that you can come indoor
Uh-huh.
and look around and go out, but even that's pretty open.
Right.
So,
Right. So it'd be a place that you could really feel safe, just going out and being outside and enjoying a December evening.
Yes.
I bet is there a fire somewhere?
We
A
have
campfire?
several campfires going at the same time. We have patio heaters set up, so if it's too
Okay.
cold, you can find a place to warm up. But
Right. And it's
Okay.
just, I mean, 2.5 hours? Is that what 6:30 to 9?
6:30 to 9, I think, is the
Yeah,
time.
I
and
mean,
you can-
that's a perfect amount of time,
Right.
to go, it really just get to enjoy all of it.
Right.
Yeah. So what a fun place. Well, we'll be sure and get that information on the comment section. So, you said you're gonna share your very first poem that you ever wrote with us.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited to hear this one. I mean, the other two have been so good. So I'm gonna let you wrap it up for us and do that. Well, I'll come back and we'll say goodbye, but why don't you give us another poem, Randy?
Okay, I sure will.
All right.
Like she said, this is my first one, and this one is kind of a inside look at me. It's not true, but it's kind of how I grew up with horses and from a little kid and thought I knew everything there was to know about horses. And then I learned about natural horsemanship, which made me think, okay, I'm probably the best horse trainer that's ever lived. So I talked my family into buying me this 12-year-old beautiful registered quarter horse that had never been around people. And unfortunately, I wasn't as good as I thought he was. And he was wilder than we thought he was going to be. And he bucked me off 4 times. Well, actually, he bucked me off twice. I fell off once, and once I just got off. And finally, I just gave him away before he killed me. And so this is kind of a story about that. And one of the interesting things about this story is every name that is mentioned is actually a real person or a real horse, except for one. And so I Googled this name to see, and there was a bucking horse in the Idaho Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame that had this name. So every name is somebody real. It goes like this. Well, I saw the ad on Craigslist, no horse too rank, no job too small, colt start and tune up, advanced training. He said, I can do it all. So I sent the man a message to the email address on the ad, and he replied right back with, I'll write them all, and I need a job real bad. Well, I told him about my little bay filly. She's a sweet little thing, just coming 3. I said, I just wanted a couple rides on her and would do it myself, but between working and preaching, I just ain't got any weekends free. Well, he said he could come over Saturday and give the little bay a spin. I said, well, that sounds great. If I'm not here at the Gates dummy lot, just go ahead and let yourself on in. Well, sure enough, just as I thought, when Saturday rolled around, I got called out to work, had to drive clean to the other side of town. But I got my work done early, and I headed on back to the spread and found a real nice dually truck in the driving. Horse Whispers, what the sign on the door said. Well, I made my way out to the round pen, but I was shocked at what I'd seen. Instead of my little filly, he had my old bay mare Granny in there. And when it comes to bucking horses, she was the queen of me. See, I found her in the kill pen quite a few years ago. The way she's marked up, I knew she had a history that I really wanted to know. She had a C Lazy S on her side and 45 branded way up high on her hip, and took a look in her mouth, and sure enough, there's a number tattooed on her lip. Well, I got her so doggone cheap, she's practically almost free. So I just loaded her up in the trailer and I brought her home with me. Done a little research on my new pony, and I was shocked at what I found. You see, when it comes to rodeo bucking horses, this old gal had been around. She started out as a bareback horse way up north with the Calgary Stampede and only made it to a few local shows. So they decided to sell the steed. And them Butler boys, they bought her and put a saddle on her back. Best decision ever made, because as a saddle bronc, she found her knack. From Alberta down to Houston, even Vegas, several years in the big show. Them bronc busters knew if they could stay on old Widowmaker, they was going to win some dough. That's why they called her Widowmaker, because she put so many good cowboys down. Somehow she'd have her feet in the air and look like she's standing on her head. She'd be so high up off the ground. But you know what? If you wasn't trying to ride her, she's the most gentle horse you ever met. So I bought her, brought her home. Grandkids named her Granny, and she became a pasture pet. Well, I stepped in to try to warn my new young cowboy friend. I said, Mister, you're making a big mistake. You about to climb on one of the best that's ever been. Well, he held up his hand to stop me and said, to an old man like you, this probably doesn't make much sense. So if you don't mind, mister, just step back behind the fence. Well, I've started quite a few young horses, but I figure when it comes to learning, you're never too old. Maybe this young buckaroo could show me something. So I stepped out of the pen like I was told. He talked about Tom and Ray and his brother and some other clinician named Ray. Said the stick and string he was using came from a guy in Australia. Got it in the mail just the other day. He said he'd read some books and watched the internet and had a Stacey Westfall DVD. He said a lot of stuff he learned from watching guys named Chris and Craig on RFD TV. But when he swung his leg over on a Widowmaker, over on old Granny Widowmaker, she become again. I think she remembered her glory days when she was top bronc in the eliminator pen. She looked like she jumped like 20 foot straight up in the air, and somehow, as if magic, jerked her front end to the ground and left her back feet hanging up there. Well, I got to admit, I was kind of happy I got to see what old Granny could do, because at least now I know that all those stories, that they were actually true. Well, he stayed on a little better, and he rode a little longer than I actually thought he could, but I think he's just too scared to get off, because if he could have figured it out, I guarantee you he surely would. Well, he said he was a horse whisperer, but I really couldn't tell. The whole time he was hanging on old Granny, all I heard him do was yell.
That's a good one. Oh, that one was good. Don't you just love the humor and the pictures in your mind? I mean, that was a great one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, but you didn't really get to see that happen. You just came up with that story.
Yeah, you just came up with it. Because it was kind of me in both sides, because I thought I could do it and figured out I couldn't do it, and learned some things.
Yeah.
And like Tom and his brother and Ray Hunt were all great guys that I've learned from. You were talking about ages. Tom Dorrance, he done his first horsemanship clinic over a microphone at 80 years old.
Wow.
And I thought, so you're never too old to try something.
That's exactly right. You are never too old to try something. That's what I told my husband. We were going to Washington, D.C., and I said, a lot of these people that are elected to these offices, they're like in their 60s when they start serving in that capacity. I was like, I think our life is just about to take off.
There you go.
We're not sitting down. We're just taking off from here.
There you go.
I'm not 60. I'm just going to clarify that right now. Okay. Don't even think I'm not.
Well, I will be in a couple months.
Now, see, Brandy's not afraid to share that sort of thing. So
when you've done crazy stuff I did, it's a badge of honor to make it this long.
Right. Oh, well, Randy, thank you so much for being on Trail Talk with me today. This has just been such a joy. I have really had a great time. I hope you all enjoyed his poems. Maybe we'll be able to get Randy to come down here when we have an event. If he's not too busy, he's a busy guy, and he'll be able to perform, or, maybe you can follow him. I bet you put it on Facebook or somewhere if you were performing someplace. So, and you guys go out to Christmas Town. Are the directions? It's kind of out in the country.
Yes.
So
there is an address on the Facebook page, but it's halfway between Cyril and Anadarko. On Highway 8, turn east on 1410, go a mile, turn south, and you can't miss the big gate. It says Cowboy Town. Yeah. When I was a kid, they didn't have those section line roads numbered. You just had to know what they were talking about, but now they got numbers on them. So it took me a long time to figure out the numbers. I still know. I'm like you. There you go, Midway Church.
Yeah, give me a landmark. But you guys go to Cowboy Town. I mean, what a great way to experience a good, fun Christmas outing. I would think that'd be great. Well, Suzanne and Stefan are both on today. I'm so glad you guys joined us, and everyone else who's watching. And when we sign off, we just kind of all say happy trails together. Okay. So Stefan and Suzanne, you want to unmute yourselves there? There you go. And whenever, okay, let's say it together. Okay. Happy trails. Bye.
Bye. Good poetry.